Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I believe that it feels like the whole Ripple XRP thing is really getting to a tipping point. And partly for that reason, and partly because people keep on asking me to do some videos where I go back and put video together of some of the players in this game over the last 2 or 3 years. And I did Chris Larson. Now I want to do Miguel Vias, and I'm thinking about doing a couple of others because I think it's very interesting to do an exercise where you go back and you look at what some of these people have said on this journey. And a lot of times that makes light bulbs go off today with what's going on. So today I'm going to do Miguel Vias. This one's from Anders L. Watch this.
We own 60 billion XRP, the company. I don't know that Bitcoin or Ethereum is that much more decentralized in terms of holdings. Right? I think Vitalik has a fair bit of Ethereum. The early Bitcoiners have tons, right? What I would say is it puts us in a very interesting position with respect to economics. Because, number one, so my job is building liquidity. One of the ways you do that is you lend XRP to people.
By the way, for those of you that don't know, Miguel Vias was head of XRP markets for, I guess, 3 or 4 years. Okay. I didn't mention that.
They can provide liquidity in markets. If you want to provide a bid and an offer in a market, you have to have cash to buy something. And if you want to sell it, you have to have the thing to sell. Well, the only way you sell something is you either own it or you borrow it. In the Bitcoin space, it's really hard to borrow stuff. It's expensive. 10 to 15% annual interest rates, and it's hard to find really chunky loans. With XRP, people can just come to us and be like, hey, I want to borrow some XRP. Not anybody, but really professional market makers. It's something that we can do that nobody else can do, right? In that flow that I described where somebody's buying XRP, moving it and selling it, we can guarantee the rates. So everybody always asks me, well, but you're bridging between 2 fiat currencies. Like you have to do 2 hops, there's 2 spreads you're crossing, the liquidity's not great, it's volatile. No problem. I will pay you the difference. If you're going across this rail and it's expensive, I am very much incentivized to make sure that you do that. Because the more liquidity, the more utility, in theory, over time, the more valuable XRP will be. So in the short run, we're very much incentivized to make all those frictions go away. So I don't see our holdings as a detriment, and I definitely do not care if there are skeptics about everything. But it puts us in an incredibly powerful position to actually activate the use case.
Okay. That's the first interesting video I wanted to play you. Now watch this one. Now, I'm going to play you a few clips from this. There may be some overlap, but anyway, this one's from Stephen Bull Dieppe. Watch this.
Like, how do you intend to distribute the rest of the XRP then?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, Mahir. And I don't necessarily know that we'll ever distribute all of it. In my mind's eye, there's a possibility where, we end up more of a lending kind of, more of a lender of last resort capacity, maybe. I think that would be a little strange for a software company, and maybe some things would have to change structurally. Maybe we have to have a different organization or something. Who knows, right? But as these capital markets develop, as liquidity develops, there are going to be folks who, if they want to provide liquidity in the asset, don't want to necessarily own the asset because that puts them in harm's way for price movements. So if you can borrow the asset and create liquidity that way, it's actually a much more efficient way to be part of the liquidity mechanism. It's how traditional capital markets work. I mean, my first job on a trading desk was managing the repo book, the overnight Tom Next kind of liquidity provision that every day we had to roll. There's nothing like that in digital assets. So partly because the transfers happen instantaneously, but also partly because it just hasn't developed. And one of my longer term goals, after I get the ecosystem built out, after I get payments running through there, as I start to merge or try to merge the two worlds, the digital asset markets and the traditional capital markets, as I try to do that, I think one of the levers that we'll be able to pull will be lending. And as a result, I don't necessarily know that we'll need some XRP, right, in order to do that. So I guess a long-winded way of saying, I'm not sure we'll ever get rid of all of it and sort of let it all out into the wild, partly because there is some utility for us or maybe some other, organization having it to make sure that the markets are always liquid.
Another interesting one. And then there was this. This one is also an interesting clip.
Have a certain amount of confidence in working with you now because you have been legitimized a little bit, and there's also like this. You've joined the club of getting fined because every bank has gotten fined for something. So it ended up actually not being something bad at all for the bank use case and helping the company quite a bit. And you've seen, I mean, look, we work with 90 banks globally. We have 15 in production deployments. It has helped the organization become enterprise grade, to the point where, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the Bank of England announcement today, but Bank of England is using our technology to POC payments internationally using Ripple Solution and ILP.
Big time. Okay, and then there was this one from Stephen from the Bull D app. Listen to this.
The Ripple infrastructure just for that particular use case.
Well, it's designed. It's very much a payments focused ledger. So, for instance, we have this feature on Ledger called payment channels, which allows you to do, I think, upwards of 50,000 transactions per second, just like Lightning, except that we're live, right? So, we have these things that are already scalable in order to run really high volume through the ledger. So, yeah, it's designed for it. One of the reasons
All right, that's interesting. That's something a lot of people don't know, by the way. 50,000 transactions per second. Where did that come from? Bank XRP had done this clip from Miguel Vias. Watch this one.
I guess if we could dive into XRP and Ripple for 1 second, I think it's interesting. So Ripple Labs itself is a company with a valuation, and XRP is an optional native asset there. How do you view the two? And you sort of, who's really buying XRP for XRP? Is it supposed to be this internal sort of native bridge asset, or how do you compare the two valuations even there?
Sure. Well, I think so. The company Ripple and XRP are very separate things, right?
Absolutely.
And the company does happen to own a significant amount of XRP, right? And I think when the creators of the ledger created the ledger and the asset, they donated a chunk of XRP to the company and said, okay, your job is going to be the steward of the ledger and the asset, right? And I think over the last 4 years, we have gotten a ton of criticism for having all this XRP, even though now it seems like this is what everyone seems to do, is hold back some of their tokens so that they can fund their project. But when we did it, it was not kosher, right? Over the last 4 years, we have built probably the best C++ team in the world. Some of them are in the audience, who basically maintain this ledger 24/7. We have taken the money, poured it back into the tech. You don't come to our offices and find, Ferraris and golden toilets, right? We have invested very deeply in the technology. And as a result, I think we are now at a place where our traction with banks, our banking customers, right, who today do not use XRP for value transfer for a myriad reasons, because we have this traction with the banks, they lean in and say, what's going on with XRP? Is that something that we should be looking at as a solution for some of our challenges? So we think of it as the sort of the last mile of our software stack with respect to liquidity, and that's how it fits in. In terms of valuation, I mean, it's just an asset we have on our balance sheet.
I guess if
The last mile. Okay, couple more videos on Miguel, and then we will be done with him.
Just spoke with Tom McLeod of Omni. We're seeing Omni integrating XRP into their platform. New use cases for XRP. What does that do to global liquidity?
Yeah, it's incredibly accretive to global growth of liquidity, especially for XRP, if it's being used in those flows. So what is liquidity? Liquidity means that I can move value through XRP without necessarily impacting the price, right? So I can get in, I can get out without having major market shifts. If you look at other markets, take FX as an example, the driving force of FX liquidity is not speculation, it's not liquidity provisioning by market participants, it's the use of that liquidity by real businesses. So as an example, if you have an auto parts manufacturer in Japan who's getting paid in euros every day, they need to swap that euro for yen. So they are in the markets regardless of whether it's going up, whether it's going down, they don't care, right? Omni is the same way. They're going to be using XRP liquidity no matter what's happening in the markets. Coil will do something similar. XRapid will do something similar, right? So as you drive more and more of these use cases, liquidity should start to really pick up pace.
You mentioned XRapid for that specifically. With deeper liquidity, what does that do for those financial institutions that are using that?
The more liquidity you have, the tighter spreads, the more efficient XRapid and XRP end up being as that real-time on-demand sort of payment funding mechanism, right? So the more Omni uses it, the more Coil uses it, the more other use cases out there start to use this liquidity, the more the volumes grow, the tighter the spreads get, and the easier it is to move money through XRP and XRapid.
That kind of spells things out. Okay, and then this is the final clip I was going to show you about with Miguel Vias. This is at CoinDesk. Let me see if there's a date. This is 2017. Bank XRP provided this.
Look, it has been a whirlwind of a year for the space broadly, for XRP in particular. Some of the phone calls that I field these days, my head does a little bit of a double take in terms of the caliber of people who are starting to look to invest in the space. It is really, really exciting. Some of the largest asset managers, hedge funds, putting together really interesting index products, wanting to invest in their own portfolios. Obviously, questions of security and custody always come up, but the desire is there. The zero correlation is a big, big deal. Obviously, the high returns are a big, big deal. I'm really, really focused on XRP, so that's how I get exposure to the interest for folks out there. But in XRP, the institutional demand has been really impressive.
I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that Miguel Vias was one of the people involved in helping to change the world, because Ripple and XRP are going to change the world. Thanks for listening.
Every day, billions of people around the world are mocked, ridiculed, laughed at, and embarrassed by their friends, family, and even strangers. These people go through their days knowing there are secrets being kept from them. They hear the faint whispers behind closed doors. The information and knowledge is held very close and only shared with others who were fortunate enough to find out. Feeling lost, rejected, and ostracized, these people give up, never finding out what digital assets the digital asset investor holds. But there is hope. Join the free Digital Asset Investor email newsletter and find out what digital assets he owns each month, including investments he's considering. Click the link in the description of this video or go to digitalassetinvestornewsletter.com. Put an end to your days of gloom and depression. Join the greatest free digital asset email newsletter ever created.